Oh, see, that can't happen. Okay, now we're on to the more difficult shape. So we're gonna pull before we touch the corner. Okay, and then we're looking for that natural, look at that, beautiful wraparound. I'm just chilling, like down here, there's no tension right here, zero. We have to be stretching before we get here. Very important. I'm gonna be doing this in one piece as well, but with a similar style to the front. This is a smooth paintable plastic. I drove the vehicle without this being wrapped for a while. And obviously there's like tree branches and scratches to take it off-roading. Stones have been kicked up at it and so forth. There's a lot of, I don't know if that's glue or what. That's just a big, massive stone chip there. It's a Jeep. It doesn't have to be the prettiest, and I do take it off-roading, so whatever. Now, if you have paint match fender flares, you're gonna wanna wrap all the way to the inside. This is super simple. You could easily put an inlay on the inside. So this is already prepped. So let's get into this. We're gonna put our knifeless tape down. Okay, so I pull tight and lead with my right hand, as you can see. And then we're gonna come back right in here. I don't even know what this haziness is. It's just like, it's textured plastic. Okay, so now you can see where my knifeless tape is. You guys also don't forget about my website, ckwraps.com. Links in the top corner and description. What we're gonna do is we're gonna pull back a corner or an end a little bit. Just gonna get this sort of situated at one end, and then not try to really stretch it or do anything right now. We're just trying to sort of sit it in place without creasing it. It's okay to have fingers, you'll get them. Okay, but the sooner I can get the surface covered up, the better. And this fender flare is way harder to wrap than the back one, than the front one, just for the shape. So I'm just gonna give this a bit of pre-stretch, nothing serious. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a flat spot. And I mean, it's not great yet. It's not bad here. It could be a little tighter. So we'll come across from this side here, and then we're gonna cross over our tension from left or front to back, left to right, whatever. Okay, so again, there we go. Now we're gonna have a pretty large flat spot right here. So this is a good starting point / anchor point. Okay, and you will need a heat gun to form this one. Okay, because I know, because I did the other side already. Whew, got some dirt under there, it came from the crack. Yeah, it's very, very close. I got one that's gonna be actually on the fender side, so I didn't want that. There, I flicked it off, it's gone. The rest is below, which is perfect. So the less you move the material, the better usually, but you're gonna have to pick it up and do stuff with it. Well, let's just go here. I'm standing here right now. We're gonna pick this up, and all of our stretch is like right through here. It's a lot. We have to be stretching before we get here. Very important. You can heat PPF, man, like especially color PPF. Clear, I wouldn't recommend using a dry heat gun with that use steam or whatever. It needs to be wet installed. But this you can heat, okay? And you're gonna need to, because there's no way you're gonna get this amount of stretch. So we're gonna pull before we touch the corner. Okay, and then we're looking for that natural, look at that, beautiful wraparound. I'm just chilling, like down here, there's no tension right here, zero. I got a bit of a start and stop line because I stretched it more aggressively than I normally do. So what I'm going to do is a start and stop line right here, meaning like it shows where I started the stretch. So if I lift that up, it'll actually blend in better now, because it'll now stretch across from one side to the other. Okay, so that helps a bit. And again, because I pulled this so tight, and because this is not a textured surface, it's a little trickier to get these fingers out. But we can get them out. And make sure you leave yourself enough on the inside edge to be able to grab the material and do what I'm doing now, because if you don't, you're not gonna have any luck with this. Okay, so I'm just trying to make it to my knifeless tape. You can see how much more difficult it would be to get it all the way into the inside edge. I would have to take the fender flare off once I get my stretch done, and then finish wrapping to the inside edge fully. That's all I would do. So if I was doing this paint match fender one piece, just like I'm doing now, but not paint matched, and I wanted to wrap all the way to the inside edge, I would get all my stretching done on both ends, and then I would pop the fender flare off, and then finish up pulling out my fingers to the inside edge. So let's lift that up. There we go. So then hopefully that helps tremendously. Get rid of that line there. Oh, see, that can't happen. Okay, this happens. Let's try and see if I can just do it without heat. I don't want to stretch it as much as I did last time. There we go. Okay, back into place. And so before I even get into the rest of that, we're just gonna come down here and just add a bit more stretch, but flatten it out. And by the time I get to the very bottom edge, we'll have no stretch pulling away from that edge. Like even in here, there's barely any. But this is gonna help hold it in place. Okay, it's super important. So I forgot to mention that. That's my fault, and it happens. So not a huge deal. Just we gotta get it back into place. It actually went down a little bit nicer this time with less fingers. So again, now we're just pulling out our fingers to the inner and outer edge, get it over top of our knifeless tape. And then once we get it beyond the knifeless tape, we don't have to worry about it anymore. Let's take these two fingers here, and lead them to the outer edge. And then I'm gonna lift that up again to get rid of that start and stop line. Because again, once I lift that up, it stretches together and it meshes together better. So that start and stop line ends up going away. Because PPF, it naturally just pulls back without adding any heat, which is honestly, like, you don't have to pick your heat gun up nearly as much, which is nice. We're gonna finish up, just get some of that done. Let's get this side edge done. Okay, beauty. Okay, we can do a relief cut here. So you see this tension line is gonna cause tension down here. Let's move the camera down a bit. Okay, so this tension line right here is causing tension down here. So if I cut through that, it's going to alleviate a bunch of tension, just like this, watch this. And now the bottom section will relax. That relaxed so much better, right? And again, my bottom edge here, look, I'm before the very bottom edge. I have zero tension there, okay? So I'm gonna trim off some of the inside. I have way too much here. It's just gonna get in my way. We're fully wrapped all the way to the knifeless tape. We've got just this little section here to do, and then we're gonna move on to the other end. And then we're gonna cut with our knifeless tape before we do anything else after. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna alleviate more tension, so let's just cut some of this off. Cool. But what that's gonna do is gonna allow me to kind of get in here a little bit nicer afterwards. See how much cleaner that edge looks now? Because we want to be able to see that edge before we cut. Let's bring that up beyond the corner again. There we go. We're gonna add heat. I'm not gonna stretch it as hard as I did the front the first time, but we're gonna add some heat just for that added pliability. And then come bring that down. And again, I'm keeping that expansion on the material as I do this, okay? Cool, so I'm watching here. This is like where I'm watching mostly. I'm watching here too, like I'm looking here, but I'm watching here to see that the material is pulling itself down naturally. Once I get this here, this is almost tension free right here, so I'm cool with that. We're good. Very bottom, zero tension, okay? So you can see that when I lift that up, zero tension there. So if I push the rest of that down, we're gonna pull it a little bit tighter than that, but just to prevent that stuff from happening. But this part is critical. And then I have, again, a start and stop line right here. It's very hard to see. It's honestly like, you probably don't have to worry about it too much, but just to make it look a little bit nicer. I mean, there's so many imperfections in the fender flare that who cares, but this will just get rid of that line because we're blending in the sides together. And then I got a piece of dirt right there. Just one is fine. When you have a bunch, it's annoying. Okay, and this is just all stone chips that have been kicked up from before. Okay, so we're gonna take the rest of these fingers here, still pull a few more out to the inside. Get that knifeless tape covered. This is gonna kind of bother me a bit, so I'm gonna trim off a bit of that like that. That's a bit of a relief cut. And then here, we just had a bit of tension right there, so I'm gonna pull a little harder with my right hand, barely at all with my left hand, watch, and I'm gonna match them. So I just want the inside edge to curl around a little bit nicer, and then you gotta add a little bit of tension just to finish it off. Again, we're not stretching past the edge, and you can see here that I've totally let go from the bottom edge. So meaning we don't have any tension at this bottom edge. There's literally no other way to do this other than using seams. Okay, squeeze you through, make sure I didn't leave any air behind. Seems all good. I have zero start and stop lines, beautiful. Okay, and then this last little bit right here, we're just gonna heat and form it around that last little stretch there. Okay, so we're gonna add some heat to the edge just to make sure the film's all relaxed. See, it's a nice notch in there. Go over our knifeless tape a little bit, make sure that there's no air in there. The hardest part of this is just getting that stretch done, guys. We're gonna take our knifeless tape right down here. I'm just using finish line. Design line cuts nicer, but for an area like this, I could care less because no one's gonna see how perfectly straight, or it's not straight, but unjagged the cut is. So I'm going to pull that all the way through in one pass, just reeling it up as I go and following the line. Cool, that's all the way through. Now we'll be able to remove that inside piece. You could freehand cut this if you want to. Just keep in mind, you're going to be cutting on your fender. And again, it's just crappy plastic. It's not painted or anything like that. So there's a little piece in there. It can always be sanded and smoothed and not worry about painting it. So if you do scratch it with your knife, not a huge deal. Okay, so down here, I'm just gonna add a bit of heat. Get that, this is a tight gap down here. Get that sort of tucked in there. Get all that sort of tucked in here. You can hear the material squeezing itself in there a little bit. This is the last step, basically. Now we're done. But stay tuned to see how it turned out. Cool. I'm just going through what you saw already, me doing the front there. Just gonna go through. And don't push too hard with your wrap stick because you will pre-cut or accidentally cut the material. So I didn't go right to the end, so we're just gonna do a cut. Let's move this camera a bit so you can see more of what I'm doing in one pass. I'll be in your way for a second here because I want to make sure that this is precise. You hear those stones at the bottom there, especially at the bottom. Okay, so I'm gonna now take this and come down with it. It's just easier to cut. When I start my cut, I just poke through where I believe there's a gap. If you get stopped by something, move your knife. You're not gonna cause any damage that way. Okay, let's go move the camera this way. You see how it's pulling back? That's all my tension pulling across the edge, which is totally good tension. Okay, take my time here. It's got a little tighter. I'm just looking very closely to see where I need to be. And then I went down and around the bend here a little bit. I'll move the camera in a second, but not the full way. So we're gonna stop there. Let's get that to prevent that from hanging off, because sometimes the weight will pull your material, and just cut it off. Okay, and then we have this last little bit right here. I want to do a cut from here to here, and then I'm going to do from here to here after. But again, we're going to pre-tuck it just to make sure everything's nice and tight, because I didn't do this part yet. And then when I get to here, it'll be easier to do there. It's a nice tight gap down here. There we go. Trying to stay out of your way and do this. It's even tighter here. Okay. Not trying to force the blade. Cool. Okay, we're not quite where I want it to be yet. We need to must come cut this way a little bit. There we go. And then now it will be easier. Oh, see, I got a little overlap right there. Just trim that up. There we go. It'll be easier to just finish up this last section here because it comes around the bend. So when you're trying to tuck in here and tuck in there, it can pull out one side and then the other when you keep going back and forth. So now I tuck that in. I'm going to get in the last 1.5 inches here. And that's it. Okay, so we go over that always with heat. I'll just take you for a look over it anyways while we're here. So from the back, yeah, I've got some black showing. Who cares? Bumper's black, the wheels are black, the trim here is black, the tonneau cover is black. Who cares? And then from the side, you don't see the black anymore. And this is where most people are going to see the car. Like even on an angle, it just looks like a shadow in there. So who honestly cares? So if you have these types of fenders, you can do it this way. Even if the front is textured and the back is textured, you can still do it this way, or you can use a seam. Totally up to you. Okay, so just gonna hit that up with a bit of heat. It's not gonna do a whole lot, but again, always for safe measure. The heat will help accelerate movement in the material, even though PPF does pull back almost right away, as you saw when I cut that piece. The heat will still accelerate that a bit, but not a whole lot. The heat is just more to kind of clean up the edge a little bit, get a little post seat on it, make sure the edge is not gonna flip up. Oh, you know, it's nice and in there, that's all. Okay. And that, my friends, is the rear fender flare wrapped on a Jeep Gladiator, Jeep JL. Jeep JL is a little bit different, but you can do this on other cars that have panels like this. And just keep in mind that because this is not a painted surface, the energy level is lower than it would be on paint. So the film doesn't adhere properly the way it should. So it's not recommended to wrap stuff like this. I'm just showing you how and that you can do it, especially the front one. The front one is way more risky because there's literally like no adhesion there. You saw like when I put that piece on there and pulled it off in the last video, that there's almost no adhesion to that. So the chance of failure on that one, higher than this one. So if it's smooth plastic like this, you're gonna have better luck with it lasting. But if it's textured plastic, yeah, the chances of it lifting are much higher. But if I showed you what to do, and if you do it all the way I had shown you, to make sure there's no tension pulling away from any edge, the tension is only pulling along the edges, you will be fine. Guys, I guess the mirror wrap video is next. I hope you enjoyed this one. I know this has been a big question for a lot of people. Can you wrap over unpainted surface? Can you wrap over textured plastic? So forth. Again, I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching as always. I appreciate it. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.